Hello again, everybody. Harry Bosch of the Technical Trader at techtrader.com. It's Saturday, August the 26th. And we had another eventful week. By the way, this is the weekend webinar. We had a very eventful week again, and the market's been down now for 4 weeks. The S&P 500's dropped from 4607 to a low a week before 4335. So almost 300 points, about 8%. Now, it doesn't mean it's over, but most of the intermediate declines here, if it's in here, we're on the order of 8 to 10%. So either that's what this is going to be and we go up. But Thursday's reversal to the downside after making a new high for the week was very negative in my opinion. And look where it failed, right at the 50. So we have to get back above 44.58 or this market goes lower. And if it does go lower, the first thing you're going to look at is the low from the week before, 43.35. Under 43.35, we're likely to see 42.60, maybe even 4,200. Just be careful. The intermediate trend line goes back to last October, comes in around there, around 4,200, give or take. So, and we've had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move up. So this is more than expected. And you got to be awfully careful here. And that's what's concerning me. We'll look at the Nasdaq generals a little later, but let's take a look at the NDX as well. For now, the Nasdaq 100 is right on its major trend line. It's the way I've drawn it off of the January March lows. Right there. We did bounce off of that, but I'll tell you what, any move underneath 14,555, and move under that line, for example, it could plunge us down to 14.2 and maybe even to 13.6 at some point. We really got to be awfully careful in here. Now, obviously, the declining top line and lateral price resistance and moving average all come to juxtaposition and resistance around 15.3. 15.280 to be exact. If we don't get this market going soon to the upside and squeeze the short, then they are going to take this down to about 14.275, maybe even plunge, as I said, down to 13.5 or 6. But we'll see if the market is going to need a selling climax or just an intermediate consolidation. I am concerned, though, that we've seen a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move. Transportation index is at about 0.375 February retracement near price support and moving average support. But notice one thing that concerns me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, 5 of the last 6 days, the markets remain below its 50. And the declining top sign was tagged on Thursday and we came down. And should we immediately drop on Monday, we can see this get down to 15,260. That's a big, big drop. We're talking 350 point down. So there's a lot of concern about the position of the markets and the indices at this point. Either we get a strong rally off these levels, or they're going to, I think, roll over and get hammered. Well, we'll see if that's the case or not. Well, let's look at the underlying technicals. The McClellan oscillator was getting oversold. And right now, after getting down to minus 237, which is the most oversold reading we've seen since March, and one of the more oversold readings we've seen in the last 2 years. And one of the reasons the market bounced, but they take a look at the oscillator not even getting back to zero. If we remain in negative territory, we can easily come down further, like we did here when we bounced and then rolled over and made a lower low. Here we bounced and did the same thing. So I'm concerned that market breaks. And if it breaks, it'll break hard. Awfully careful here, folks. Very awfully careful. All right, so that's that. And now how about the percentage of stocks above their 40? That'll a bit telltale as well. It's dropped down to less than 3 out of 10 stocks are above the 40-day moving average. So it'll tell you what the market breadth looks like right now. That did get as low as 24.79%. The VIX is an anomaly. It just isn't showing much, and it actually dropped almost 9% in one day on Friday. So fear is not there yet. But if this thing breaks back above 18, 19, and then goes into the 21 range, you could easily be 30 or more. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just telling you that that's what's out there, and the market is vulnerable, put it that way. Okay, let's take a look at the Nasdaq generals, and I'll tell you a little bit about where we're at. Why would there be concern? Well, Apple had broken its trend of the last 6-7 months from the bear flag, made a lower low and bounced. But where did it bounce to, and what did it do after that? You can see it bounced right to a resistance level near the declining 21-day moving average and bounced. But the bounce was short-lived after it came down again. We cannot let Apple go, and watch for this one, folks. Under 175 3/4, Apple could take a hit. If it takes a hit, it'll probably test the lows here in the 171.73 zone. And it's always vulnerable to break down from there. There's a lot of room to drop below that. So I'm just concerned, and we'll see if Apple leads or lags. What may be occurring here is a falling channel. And you can see this is just basically a 1-2. The 3 could get you down to 165, and 4 and 5. So yeah, I'm not calling for that. I'm just saying that based on the break and the snapback on unimpressive technicals, Apple's vulnerable. Amazon, well, Amazon certainly looks like it broke its trend line. It went under the 50 for a minute and reversed, but taking a look at this pullback low and this pullback low, there's your support. I would say Friday's low is important on Amazon. If you see Amazon immediately go under 130.5, 131 zone, that's the double bottom there. And the other concern is that there's a potential trend line break as well. And if it gets back under the 50, you could crack this line, which is an immediate internal trend line, which if broken could lead to a much bigger decline in Amazon. So let's just take this out for a minute and call this for maybe, just maybe, if that's what it wants to do, then we could have a little bit lower low. I'm just concerned. I need Amazon. Let's put it this way. Thursday's high, important. Amazon needs to get over 136 3/4. That would be this line there. A move above that signals a bullish reversal. A move below that zone in here, this thing could plunge away and take the market with it. So again, Apple and Amazon vulnerable. What about Google? Same thing here. It's on the trend line. It actually bounced Friday. But you don't want to take this out, folks. Anything below 127, and you have a possibility of seeing 118.20 or even 115 to test that area. On the other side of the coin, Google is near multi-year highs. So at least going back to early 22. And that could be considered as a bull flag if it holds. It is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 5 could be a 1, 2 of 5, and we can see 3, 4, and 5. You get this in up to the mid 150s at some point. So keep an eye on Google's support at around 127.5. 127 would be important. Also, the 50-day moving average of Google is 125.75. So for me, that zone is critical. Not only is there a gap there, but there's a moving average. So that zone is going to be critical. Either we hold that or not. Even if I draw this back here and make that the trend line off of these 4 lows, you can see how anything under 124.5 3/4, that would be detrimental to Google and the market. What about NVIDIA? Well, that took certainly kind of pop and a drop, didn't it? Great earnings report. Now, pre-market was 519 during the session, 502.66. The next day dropped down to 450. So this thing's dropped 70 points on nearly 69 points. And if you look at where the trend line is and the moving average, we're looking at 435.40 as big, big, big support. Right through there. We have to hold that level. Microsoft. Looking at the long-term pattern, it broke its intermediate trend line. Looked like almost a head and shoulders, although it was a left shoulder ahead. The right shoulder is very weak if that's the case. And on Thursday, like many of these stocks, it got up right up to the moving average, the 50, and fell down. Now we have to do this. There's your new intermediate channel on Microsoft. Obviously, pull back low at 311.5, vital. Anything underneath that, you're looking at 300, 302, and then all the way down to 292. Again, if Microsoft should get above Thursday's high, like several of these stocks, if you look at the Thursday high, you'll see what's, to me, technically important in terms of potentially breaking back out again. But I'm worried about a topping pattern on Microsoft along with the others. Netflix. Netflix already has a left shoulder, head right shoulder, broke down, snapped back because it held secondary support. That level here at 396, I think is vital for Netflix. Next target is 380. And then we're talking 352. I'm concerned that this is your new downtrend, and it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fifth wave down may be necessary in a lot of these stocks. You know, the market could use a washout. It would be good to get it quickly. Let's get it over with. But in the long-term pattern, you see we're still holding a trend line on Netflix for now. What about Meta? Well, Meta broke, and although it snapped back, it broke here and snapped back, it broke here and snapped back. So what do you got to do? Now we have a major support level of 274.5 and resistance at the declining top side. Look at Thursday's high again. Another example of the Nasdaq 100 generals snapping back to a key technical area: declining top line, declining 21-day moving average, the flattening out 50, and so and a breakdown. So a fall away move target now is 256.7, 258 to be exact. So careful on Meta because it looks like a rollover top as well. And finally, if you look at Tesla, Tesla broke here, bear wedge, came down to support, consolidated for 4 days and broke. The rally back is taking it back to what I think is the top of the channel. If we fail here, if we don't take out last week's high of 241 and run up to 255.7, then a break of the weekly low, last 4-day low, let's say under 228, should lead to a test of perhaps in the 2 teens, 212.15 range. Touch and go with Tesla, although I will say this. Like in the case of 1 or 2 other stocks, this is an island bottom line reversal. Gap down, gap up, leave an island, and then form a flag. So potentially, Tesla could be bullish, especially if you see this over 241. So we're in touch and go. And by the way, right near or right at the little island reversal came right off the bottom of the channel. So for me, it's a large 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fifth wave could take Tesla to 330. No kidding. But again, it has a lot of work technically to do before we can get there. So let's look at the Nasdaq generals. Let's look at some of the major ETFs we follow. The SMH for the semiconductor group is looking pretty toppy. Left shoulder, double head, right shoulder. At least that's what I'm seeing. Again, Thursday's high of 156.59 across here is major resistance. The bottom line is, if you're looking for a breakout, it's going to have to get back up to 156.5, and there's 153 resistance at the moving average as well. You can see the double top up here at 161. That's the major resistance for the SMH. Should we get through that, probably 174.5 could be doable. But again, if this is an intermediate consolidation like we had in here, then fine. But you know, if you're looking at the long term, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now this consolidation, which is always less reliable and could be a topping pattern. Let's just put it this way: if you see the SMH on the 143, market has a problem. Simple as that. Probably likely to come down to 136 quickly or less. In the midst of all of that, financials look terrible with interest rates rising. You can see the breakdown of the intermediate channel. We're under the moving averages until and if we get back above 66.5. This is still vulnerable, and perhaps even down to 57.5 or even 52.5. Unless we get back over 66.75, the financials are leading the market lower. At least it looks like it now. Now the biotechs actually look like they could be a V bottom of the right-hand extension, but we're still in the downtrend. So I need the XBI, for example, to start by breaking out over last week's high, get over 80, and then take out 80 80 and 81 is a key resistance zone right now. And we've had a 1, 2, 3. This could be a 4 forming, so we could see the fifth wave down to 72.3. So either this is a V bottom right-hand extension, up we go, and it's a 3-wave corrective pullback, or it's just a fourth wave wedge forming and we go lower. That's where the concern comes in with the biotech. So biotechs look potentially neutral, but they're still in a downtrend, while financials have broken their uptrend and are underneath the moving averages. That's negatory. Now, the SMH is also kind of neutral, but in a configuration that's dangerous. So I'm just concerned that if we don't get a rally going very quickly early next week, we could see a plunge lower or climax low. Let's look at those. Let's look at some other ETFs we follow in terms of the groups, the commodities, particularly oil. Look at the USO on Friday, up 1.4% after holding support. The key support now is 70, 70.5. It's a wedge pattern. If this is a 1-2, then 3 could be huge into the $80 range. Gush, which is a double bull, is in a rising configuration since June's lower in the $100 range. And it's moved up to mid 160s, and now in a 1, 2, 3 wave correction. If we see this under 147.5, I'd be concerned. The double top resistance is mid 160s, but the target now is 180, 185, 190. So we'll see if Gush breaks out or not, and the key breakout would have to be over 166. Interesting, huh? Now, oil, this is gas, UNG. Basing for months now. It did break out at an island reversal, though, and came down. Now it looks like it might have reversed. Key resistance 7, 7.25, 7.5, and 8. KOLD, the opposite. You can see it's been in the declining 1, 2, 3, 4. It might be volatile to a fifth wave. Now, if we get the KOLD coming down into the 41.42 zone from 54, the UNG will probably run back up towards the 8, even 8.75 range. So keep an eye on the UNG and the cold, and we'll see what direction they take. Gold, well, I'm still, and I haven't been enamored with gold, and I keep telling you, why is anybody interested in gold? Well, not yet. I mean, for me, the long-term trend broke here. We snapped back to it and rolled over and made a lower low. It's now a 1, 2, 3, and attempt at a wave 4. I just don't see it. And I'm not going along anything in the gold sector, not yet. Same thing with JNUG. Well, coming down, making a nominal multi-month low, almost a 1 year, 9-month low or so. I don't get it. And AGQ, same thing. This is silver. This is looking better than gold in that it held its trend line. It's bounced up, but it has to get back above the right now. It's above the moving averages. That's very bullish. But I need this one over 33 to really get the ETF going, and that would be a signal of a bull market in silver, perhaps. Well, longer-term target is 36 to 42. Let's look at the ETFs, the indices, technicals. Let's get to the long list of potential longs, and I have some shorts for you and some new ones too. AAOI has been one of our favorites since it popped, pulled back, and broke out. And you can see the 3-wave corrective flag and the pop, and now this is a rising flag. I don't know in this market, if the market breaks, if this is going to hold up. The key short-term support is 11.25.5. Resistance is certainly around the 16 to 16.50. Your target is 19.20 if it continues. ABCM, look at this beautiful base. Breakout flag, held a moving average, exploded, and had a longer-term flag, and it's popped out too. I'm hearing takeover, so who knows where they can take this, probably 28.30 or more. ACHR has been in a beautiful uptrend, but the last 2 days were ugly, and it failed to get through 7.5, and then had a hard hit. Now the moving average is 514, the pullback low is 525, so something in that 515-20 range, key support for me. If it doesn't hold, this is broken. If it does, retesting 7.5 and then getting up to 9.5, potential possibilities still. ACLX, long-term uptrend intact, but after we had that beautiful consolidation in May, June, it broke down like many biotechs. This could be a bear flag, but it is holding the trend line. Until I see a breakout back over, say, 40, I'm not going to be happy with this one. Targets would be then 45 and 48 or more. ACMR, a junior semiconductor, long-term downtrend broken here. Pop-up coil developed, spiked and flagged and spiked again and broke out and pulled back. Still, if we get any kind of decent market, this could be 17, 19, and 22. EDMA, long-term rising channel for this beautiful little biotech. And you can see where short-term support would be. Don't want this one under 380. Resistance is 430, 465, and 5, and those are mini targets. AEHR. Am I concerned? Of course. This is a stock that's run from 7 to mid-50s. Flag broke down. It tried to bounce last week, but note that these highs and the moving averages, with Thursday's high being 44.86, that's the level it must get through, or you break down at 38, and this thing can plunge into the 34.5 range just for starters, and then maybe high 20s. Be really careful with this one. Now, long term, you can see the intact channel, if it holds, could lead to mid-50s and even mid-70s at some point. Firm, big pop on Friday. Look at the overall structure. A long downtrend, a base pattern, and now platform. We popped the falling wedge on Friday and jumped up 30% on 88 million shares. But it has to get through resistance to 1990, at which point targets are 22.5 and 26.5, 7. AI, well, everybody loves AI, and yet take a look. The stock has fallen out of its consolidation after spiking up here and doing a head fake to everybody at 44.90. The stock has dropped into the high 20s and lost 15 points. It's right near the trend line. So any further damage here in the stock could drop down into the low 20s. Be really careful. Friday again, Thursday's high, 33.67 is an inflection point. You get above that, maybe you can get going again. Long term, you have resistance at 35.6, 42.4, and then low 50s. AMAM, after exploding in December and having a falling wedge to February, it exploded again. So it's a sharp 1, 2, 3. The fourth wave has been in a rising channel for about the last 5-6 months. It looks like it's trying to break out. At Friday, it popped. It allows the market 12%. So keep an eye on this one. Targets are 17 and 19.5. AMD is in danger, and this is one of those Nasdaq 100 generals I don't talk about too often. It is a component. Big reversal Thursday. Declining top sign and resistance at 113. But if this thing falls away here, we're looking at 93 and 85. AMRX, it's a beautiful rising pattern, rising channel. I would say this coil that's forming is imperative that it doesn't break down. See it? Any breakout for starters over last week's high would be bullish. That's about 415 with volume. And then I'm looking for 4 3/4. If it doesn't eventually make it take another leg up, 5 3/4. AMTX, real sharp move and a pullback. It's now underneath initial support, but at key secondary support. If that's a head and shoulder top or breakdown, it's going to have to get underneath Thursday's low. Stop under 470. If it pops, 6.5 3/4 is your first target. APLS with a disastrous drop. Look at this move this had from 21 to early 23. For a year and a half, it went from basically 26 to 96. On bad drug news, it got crushed. I mean, hammered. High 80s to nearly for around 20, and then a double. Take a look at the breakaway gap this had on Tuesday, or was it Wednesday, in the consolidation, how it's holding. Keep your eye on the stock, because if you see this for some reason get above 43, you might see 50, 52. Those are my targets. Just be careful about a pullback. APP, App 11, which broke out here. We put a swing on it in low 20s, nearly doubled to 40.99. So it did just about double. And it's got a rising flag here, so it's very, very powerful. It allows the market. Folks, I just want to point out that stocks like this, showing relative strength and making new highs, it allows the market that wants to watch, because when the market turns, if it turns and when it turns, this could be huge and moving into the 50s and 60s. ARDX, a nice rising channel, a beautiful one. They took it from like 50 cents to $5, a tenfold increase. But you know, 1,000% is going to need some consolidation, and we got one. A large consolidation coil is formed with multiples bottoms at 3 1/4 and tops at 4 1/4. That's what you're going to need. Above 4 1/4 with volume, this can explode. ARLO broke out of a base with a breakaway move, a sharp pop, a little pennant, and then a flag. And then another pop and coil, and another pop and flag. But this time the flag broke down and tested support from the May-June lows. That's your stopping point. You don't want it under that low. Stop under 9. Resistance is about 10.5 and 11.75. Should you get through that, 11.5, we're looking for 14. ASX, nice pop on Friday, that's for sure. We traded that nicely. You can see resistance at 8.35. We get through that, we're looking at 9 and 9.75. ABDL, beautiful long pattern after V-bottoming and coiling and popping and forming a wedge. It went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then pulled back. From that point, about 4.25, it's tripled, quadrupled nearly to 16.85. So yeah, 4.25, 16.85 is a 300% gain. Currently, as you can see, it's consolidating that gain and acting well, but you don't want underneath, in my opinion, 12.5. That's your stopping point. Targets are 17 and 20. Bluebird Corp, automotive manufacturer, inverse head and shoulder breakout retest. Spike, falling wedge, or channel. Another spike to my target at 27.75, 28. Now the pullback. So you don't want this one ideally under 20, 20.5. If it gets back at over 23.5, 28, 35 might be targets. Stay tuned on that. BRBR, I just want to show you this pattern. After coming out of the base, this food company popped the flag, popped and coiled. It's multiple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up, and it's in the midst of that 5th wave, and a big day on Friday. Bullish day, I should say. It did pull back off the highs, however. Target is 46.7 if it goes. Kaba, a big run November through February, and then coil. Broke out of the coil, pulled back, and then flagged. It's got to get about 14.75, but it's a beautiful chart. And if it does that, my target is 19. CAMT, what a chart. And folks, in this market, making new all-time highs. I talk about relative strength. Is it overbought? Well, it's gone from 21 to 52. You tell me. Can it go higher? Of course, momentum can take this to the mid-high 50s or more, but just got to be careful on this one. CAPR, breaking out of the base. This junior biotech went vertical from about 4.25 to 8, 8.10. The target was 9, 9.25, and the momentum could take it there. That's a great looking chart. CBay, popped to a double top and backed up, but take a look at the long-term chart. Here's a stock that's gone from $1.75 to 14 and change. In a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th wave, could be 1, 2. You could see 3, 4, and 5 into the low 20s. However, you need to keep stops in place. And right now, this is your support zone on CBay between 10.80 and 11.25. Target next 15.5. CCJ, the largest purveyor of uranium, Chemico is multi-year highs. Highest level since 2011, 12-year highs. So can it go up there? Yeah, my projection is 40, mid-40s if it continues this moment. Another stock making highs in a lousy market. Relative strength. CDLX, well, this inverse head and shoulder triggered a buy from me for a swing. It exploded and pulled back, exploded again, and now it's flagging and breaking out again. If I can get this one over 14.75, I think we could see 17, 18. CLS, in the midst of all of this electronic components manufacturer, Celestica, has run hard from the May low in the 10.5 range to double near 23. Target 25. Support 20.5. Cocoa Vita, keep showing this stock is pretty phenomenal, but after a long run, saw it go from 7.5, 8 into the 30 range, fourfold. It's consolidating in here. Did have one spike, I believe, was on earnings, but it pulled back. Right now, this is your resistance zone. And support, double bottom, 23.75. Short-term support, 25.5. Right there. Keep an eye on this one. COUR, educational training stock. Nice long base. Take a look, but it's at resistance. If it gets through here, this could be a $22 stock. Very interesting. This is the highest level since July of last year, so a 52-week high. Credo, big explosive move and a pullback. Now it ran the week before last and midweek and then pulled back. So your support and credo is 13.5, but your resistance is 16.5. Your targets are 18 and 19.5. Carvana, well, I'm not so sure. Look, it treated us well there and here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up, and now this. 100% stop under 34.5 3/4. What I need after 2 weeks of consolidating is a move over 41 3/4 with energy. That could get it back to the low to mid 50s. CVRX, medical device company, has gone from 8 to 19 and is back up near the double top from earlier this year. Should we get through? 22 is your target. Electronics, V bottom, spike, pullback, and then flag. And then it's stair step its way higher. It's been in a rising channel. My target's 11. DBI, long downtrend broken with a breakaway gap. Moving averages crossed over. It ran up to resistance and pulled back. And take a look at this coil. Something to watch because basically it could be a left shoulder head and right shoulder, or a V bottom with a platform. Either way, any move above 11 could get it running into the 13-15 zone, my targets. DBRG, if it popped on Thursday, and I made the mistake, and I will admit to you guys that that was an error on my part. It popped out, looked like it was going, and the intraday chart looked so strong, I went with a swing on it. But when I looked at the daily chart after I did that, I noted that the technicals were not good. Neither was volume. So I'm skeptical that swing advice wasn't a good one. So my apologies. I would exit temporarily, and if it got back above 17 3/4, maybe then we could see 21, 22. But it is a nice long-term pattern. It's just that didn't have the technicals I wanted to see. DraftKings, which is a swing we gave back here in May, and it moved from 20 to 33, had pulled back and tested support and the trend line. It's bounced, but it hasn't bounced with a lot of conviction. Unless I see this over 29.30, 29.90, 30. If that happens, 35 and 38 might be targets, but I'm worried about a failure here and a rollover to somewhere in the low 20s. Dust, JDST are moving with gold down, but I'm going to pass on that for now. DVAX, beautiful junior biotech. It's gone from 9.5 to 15 and change in a rising channel and doesn't look finished. Engulfing reversal day on Friday, and looks to me like 16.5 and 18 are targets. Elon, inverse head and shoulder, breakout, retest of the gap and the trend line and the 50-day moving average. It's holding it. So you can stop this one under 11. Once through, it's 12 3/4. I have 13 3/4 and 15.5 as targets. ELF, I continue to show this week after week. It's incredible. Momentum is taking us from the low 20s to the 146 range. I'm sorry, 137 was high. But nevertheless, it's down back in support and hasn't broken down yet. What I would do is keep a close tab on this zone. The stop on this one has to be under 110, but move over last week's high over 126.7. Could get it back into the 137, and then you have a target of 155.58. ETNB, as I indicated to you a couple weeks ago, was getting weaker, and I suggested exiting. Well, it did come down to secondary support there and held for now. It might be trying to break out. I'm going to need it back above 17.5 with energy, and then your targets are 20, 22, and above. ETON, Eaton, has this little junior biotech has gone from 242 to 535, more than doubled, and broke out. And it's the highest level since November of 21, a year and a half, 18-month high with a target now at around 6 3/4. If momentum carries it. FNGR, we traded this nicely here and then again there, but you can see after failing to break out, it pulled back. It's got a nice coil forming, but you don't want to be in this stock under 375.85. That's your stop. Your targets would be again 6 3/4, 7, and then 10 if it goes. FRPT broke out. We put a swing on it. It's pulled back in a 3-wave corrective on low volume. It doesn't look bad technically, but I don't want underneath $70. That's my stop. FRSH, same thing. Pop, pull back, pop, and holding support at the gap. I really don't want to see this one on 19 3/4. Secondary support is 18.85. Resistance 23, target 26.7. Fastly, been moving up nicely, and since January's low in the 7 range, it's tripled. How about that? Friday was a great day for it in a lousy market. Always look for relative strength. That's another example. Where's the next target? I'm looking for 30. Now, there's a lot of room between that. 23 and 30 would be targets. FULC seems to be coming out of a base. It popped the resistance at the gap and pulled back, but I did it on very low volume. The technicals look good. This may come on again. Target 7.75 and 9. GAMB out of nowhere, this stock breaking out. GAMB, one of my institutional clients did a drill down on it. It said fundamentals are very strong. He's looking for 35.40 the next year. Anyway, breakout, flag, engulfing reversal, near-term target 16.75. GCT, nice base, popped, wedged, broke out, moved up steadily in a rising channel and pulled back. Nevertheless, if it holds 11, I'd be looking for mid-teens. Groupon, another example of a declining channel, a long-term one. A breakout there. Off the top channel, the pullback and wedge, and there's your breakout. And there's a run-up. There's a pullback retest that was successful. Multiple waves up, say this can still go to 16.575. Hasbro broke out and pulled back. I put a swing on it. It popped nicely 335 on a down day, up 5% on Friday, but it looks like the intermediate trend is up, and the targets are 77.85. HDSN popped out of a wedge last week, did great. The stock's been up for, well, it was up for 5 days in a row and then pulled back gently. Still like the look of it. There's resistance from the December high when it reached 1246. That's my first target, 1245-ish. You get through that, you're looking at mid-teens. HKIT has gone ballistic since the June low when it was trading at 4. It has gone from 4 to 39. Tenfold increase, basically. You got to be awfully careful with this one. The Thursday low at 28 is your stop. Who knows where momentum can take that one. HNRG, an example of, there's 2 or 3 coal stocks that look like this. CEIX, which I didn't go over. Oops. It's broken out of a long base, and it looks like it's going even higher. Look at this long-term chart. It moved from 4 to 84. Now we're going back to what I wanted you to see is HNRG. This is Hallador Energy. How about this one? A coal stock that was 60 cents a share back in 20, and it's now 11.5. And my target is 14.5. HRTG, like a property casualty insurance company. What a chart! From $1.15 to over 6, and a target of 7 8.75. If it continues this beautiful momentum. IDYA, nice biotech breakaway, pop, wedge, strong move up, nice orderly retrace, held support, pounced, flagged, and broke out. Really good looking relative strength. Reached 28 back in September 21, so 2 years ago, and it's above that now. I'm looking for 30, 31, and then I'm looking for high 30s. Great looking chart. Great relative strength. IMTX, another good relative strength stock in the biotech group. V bottom, pop flag, pop a larger flag. When we get through here, we're looking at mid-teens. Good chart. IMBT, another. This is one of my top 20 picks for the year. It's gone from about the 10-11 range and made it into the mid-20s for 150%, but it's pulled back in an orderly retrace. My next target has to be 27.8. INOD. One of my institutional clients has done a big drill down on this one, loves the fundamental story, and I told him I love the top stock. Technically, when I saw the coil on Friday, I put a buy on it. And I think if this gets over 14, 3/4, 15, we're looking at 17 and 20 or more, maybe 22.5. IONQ, beautiful uptrend, multiple waves. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the pullback isn't a surprise. I'm going to need this stock to hold support and make a move over Thursday's high, like many other stocks. I think Thursday was a critical day. And I think Thursday's high in many stocks are going to be something to watch. And if this one takes out Thursday's high over 16.42, we're probably looking at 18 and 21. IOT, Samsara, beautiful rising channel. This coil broke down but held lateral price support near that gap. So I'm going to need this one to come on, take out 26.7 and move to the low 30s. IZM, Well, out of nowhere, I noticed the stock was having a big run. It's been gone from under 2 to 13, six-fold increase. Big pop on Friday, broke it out of a flag, but it moved right back down again. So it dropped back from 1287, 1023. Could be dangerous, be careful. KALV, what a nice looking biotech this is. Note that the recent action held key support right around 10, 1020. Stop is under 10. You get over 11 and a quarter, you're probably looking at 12 and 14. LI, one of my favorite Chinese EV manufacturers, popped here. We put a swing on it. It went from the high 20s to the mid 40s, and now it's pulled back in a very orderly retrace. It's got to hold here. This is my stopping point. Under 38, we're out. It pops across 42, then looking for 44.5 and 49.50. Master brand, beautiful rising channel. I just wanted to show it to you. I've never heard of this stock before. Breakaway gap and rising channel tells me if it continues, 14 is your target. MDXG, a pop, breakaway gap, flag, pop, or falling wedge, so it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth wave target is 9 3/4. MLTX, what a great looking biotech chart this is. After gapping up here on news in June, it's doing a rising channel. Next target, mid 70s. MRAM, also a rising channel for this semiconductor manufacturer called Everspin, with a stop under 880 and a breakout over 10.5 gets you 11 3/4 at 13. And BTX explodes, coils for 2 months, explodes and pulls back and retests, and then pops to the target, coils, and runs it right back to the target. The next target is 13 and then 16.5. End up NPWR out of nowhere in June went ballistic. 935 to 17, 19, doubling in a week and a half, and then pulling back and forming a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave coil. That broke out early August. So it subsequently has gone from the pullback low of 1157 to 16 with resistance near 17. Breakout above that, we can see high teens. NVDL, the tracking stock for NVIDIA, same thing here. Reverse Thursday came down. This has to hold 88, 89. NVT, Invent, look at this long-term channel with a target now at 60 and a stop under 50. OCS, Oculus, went public, dropped, popped, coiled, and broke out, and then reversed Friday. Careful on that one, but a move above Friday's high 14.5 could get you 16, 18. OLMA, base breakout, retest the breakout point in the moving average, create a new rising channel, and do a 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth wave broke out, but then pulled back. You got to stop this one under 7 3/4, but the targets are 12 and 15 if it goes. ORIC, beautiful chart, and its tech trader swing. Broke out, coiled, flagged, broke out, pull back, broke out again, pull back again. My target remains 11 and 14. PCBX, beautiful long-term pattern, breakaway gap from a major base, explode, falling wedge, retest the gap but a little bit above it, break out again from a wedge, pop from a long flag. This is something to watch because the overall pattern is extremely bullish. You can see maybe breaking out of it. If we do get another leg up, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth wave could be in the 60s. POWL popped. We put a swing on it. Immediately, in the last 2 weeks, it's formed a beautiful mini wedge, or let's call it just a coil. I now have a target near 100. RCEL, beautiful long-term rising channel, but it broke down recently to test secondary support. It has to hold 15. Resistance is 18, and through that, 21 and 25 are targets. Rely Global, or Remedy Global, what a great chart. Broke out, coiled, popped, falling wedge, pop, flag. It just looks higher. 26 target, and through that, 29. RNW is in a rising configuration. And is at the highest level since January. I'm looking for a move through 690 and through that 7 3/4. Roy Band, one of my top picks of the year. And you can see why. Beautiful October through January moved and consolidated, and then started another rising channel. And it's held it all along. Recently, the pullback low is your stopping point under 10. You get this one over 12, 12.15, and we're headed to, I think, 14 and 16. Roku popped out. We put a swing on it, immediately popped and extended, but then pulled back. With the tech stocks backing off here, this is on support. We don't want it under 75 ideally. Your targets are 85 and 95. Seadrill in the oil and gas sector, stellar. Went back public again after being acquired, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fifth raise on the way. We broke out, and now we're consolidating. Any move on this one above 50, we could see 55, 60. Soleno, that's Soleno, exploded, ran up, coiled, broke out, ran up, coiled. 1, 2, 3, 4. That fifth wave projection would be first for a retest of 6.25, and then 9, 10. Splunk, breakaway gap to a triple top. This looks like a tech trader swing, and I put one on. My targets are 135 and 150. SPNS, this is software stock after having a decent downtrend, 38 to 15. It's broken back out, flagged, popped, and flagged again with an extension target of 33 now. TAST, this junior restaurant chain broke out here. Did a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth wave is on the way. Currently in some kind of consolidation pattern. I needed to hold the trend line and the moving average, which stops under 565. Targets are 8, 9.5, and 11. TSAT exploded. We put a swing on it and immediately paid dividends with a pop, then 2-day pullback, and then another pop, now another pullback. But eventually reached 22 3/4 and about doubled in a week and a half. Good swing. Your support now is 17.5. Target is 22.5, 26, and 30. Junior Bio Tasha, look at this long downtrend. Taking it from the low to mid 30s into less than $1 and then exploded. The pullback and pop tell me that we're going to, it looks like it's going to try to put in a rising channel. And it might look like something like this with a target of 3 and 4. Tupperware with an explosive move, literally went from 50 cents to $5, another 1,000% move, tenfold increase. Orderly retrace, pop, couldn't get out. That's the key level now. You got to get this one above 320 with energy. You do that, we're looking at 4.25, 5.5, and 7. But for now, key support is $2. ULBI popped, pulled back, it popped again, it coiled. When it popped here, I put a swing on it immediately and went a couple points before backing off $3, backing off 3 days in a row. But keep an eye on this one. I'd like to see it hold support with right now 8.5, 3/4. Your targets would be 10.5, 11.5, and 13. Upwork breaks out with a breakaway gap, pops and has a falling wedge. Breaks out of that, double tops and backs off, but it looks like it wants to go. You get through that double top at 16, 1580, 19 is your target. Vera explodes in June, comes out of a base, consolidates, flags, and breaks out but backs off. Still think it's got energy, 22.5 target. VRT, phenomenal rising pattern. From the April low at 12 and changes has gone and tripled into the 37.8 range. My target now on momentum is 44.5. VSH popped out of a base, pulled back, formed a falling wedge. When it broke out of that falling wedge, that was your buy signal. And it did it with a gap right here. From that point at 22, it ran up to 30 and backed off. At this point, it needs to hold 25.5. Target is, if you get through 28, your targets are 30 and 32. VST also breaks out of a big base, pops and retests and flags, and then pops again and flags. Great momentum, looking for 33. Weave, communications. Big base breakout, flag, pop, and now consolidating. Don't want this one under 9. Targets at 12 and 15. Weight Watchers. Breakaway gap, pop and falling wedge, pop out and a mini wedge, and explode out of that from a larger one. So it's the kind of stock that keeps bullishly consolidating. If it gets over 10.5, 12.5, 14, and 16 might be targets. XPEV breaks out of a base. We did a tech trader swing right there. It worked out great, going from the low teens to the mid 20s. tagging 23.62. Then a sharp pullback brought it all the way down to 14, but an island reversal has reversed it. And apparently, Friday broke out of a mini inverse head and shoulders. Let me show it to you on a 15-minute chart. There's your left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and breakout. So on a daily chart, I have targets now at 19.5 and 22. Beyond that, we'll see. XPO Logistics, one of my favorite trucking logistics firms, consolidating near the trend line with a target now of 88.89 and a stopping point under 63. And that's it for the long side. I do have some charts to show you. Starting with AN, Auto Nation came down hard and it's from the bear flag. And 2 out of 3 times this pattern is going to break down. First target, 136. And second target is right there at 123. So be careful with this one and definitely want to consider shorting it. Biomea, which came down hard and formed the bear flag, and I told you it was a short in the low 20s, has made it down to 15-16 range and looks lower. Target, 13.75, 14. Crocs was a short, a tech traded swing short at about 108 or 9, whatever it was. It made it down to 91 and bounced. But this pattern looks toppy to me, folks. A massive left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and breakdown. Next target, 83.4, and then maybe in the mid to high 60s. Duolingo, well, I'm not so sure yet, but here's a breakdown and a snapback, and I'm looking to see if it fails. Should it get underneath that level, we might see low 100s. The XCM broke down from the bear flag and broke down again. Now, it did reverse Friday, but my target remains 92, 87, and 80. EL, well, this broke down a snapback, large declining pattern, lower lows. I don't think it's done yet. I'm still targeting 132.33. HOLX, head and shoulder top breakdown, cannot get through it, and now Friday pulled back. This looks like a tech trader swing short right there with targets at 68 and low 60s. INTA, certainly a topping pattern, and bear wedge. This is a tech trader swing short. Next target, 29, 27.5, and 25. INTT, also a tech trader swing short. This is a pop down and bear flag and another bear flag, and basically I'm looking for 13 and 13.5. Is this a topping pattern in Las Vegas? I can't tell yet. It does look like a left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Wait for the neckline to crack. And should he get under 51.5? It targets 46 and 40. LW finally cracked from the bear wedge and cracked again. Now it looks like it might be forming another one, and if it cracks here, it'll fill the gap. Probably all the way down to 88. And ANH, well, I put out a tech trader swing short on it. It hasn't broken yet. The technicals look weaker than the price is indicating, so careful. I would now, if you haven't stopped it out, stop over 196. If it breaks down, your targets are 184 and 173. Omicron broke a topping pattern, snapped back and failed. It's forming another little bear wedge in here. I'm looking for 74 and 68. Impinge, I told you that was a rising bear flag. It failed, rolled over from the beautiful little bear flag and really got hammered. Now it's forming yet another. I'm not sure how far they could take this, but it feels like it's coming down to the 40-41 range at some point. Rambus, drop, bear wedge. Target, 40. SAGE already had its move down after forming this bear wedge, so I'm not keen on being or staying short. SDGR breaks down from the little wedge, breaks down again and pops, unable to get through. It's on the precipice of a breakdown again under 33.75. I would look for 29 and 26. SYM, massive topping pattern. It broke its trend line. It's on support. Any further damage here? Across that, and it could plunge into the 24 range. Technoglass, one of my favorites last year, and the tech trader swing long, broke down, and at this point, looks like a bear flag is forming, and the target will be 28.5. TMDX also broke from the little bear wedge, and this could go lower. 54.5 and 40, 42 are targets. And finally, Builder TriPoint maybe broken already, if that's a head and shoulder top. But you can see the trend line broke, couldn't get back through it, and rolled over. Right now, I'm targeting 27 and 24 and a half, 25. And that's a look at the longs, the shorts, the technicals, the underlying indicators, and that's your weekend webinar. HB wishes you a wonderful weekend. Get some rest, review this a couple times, and get yourself prepared for Monday. We're going to need it. HB out. Have a good one. Bye now.